In the interim, we'll continue to play our role as a viable and responsible opposition party that keeps government in check and holds them accountable to the people. It is in that spirit that we have outlined the above measures to help resolve the economic mess we are in and bring some respite to the good people of Ghana. We are in a crisis, and this is not a time for arrogant and insulting posturing. This is a time for listening. It's a time for utmost humility. And it's a time for honest contemplation. It is time to admit and accept where we have gone wrong. It is time to bring our suffering people together, to unite our people. It's a time to promote unity and seal the cracks. It's a time to demonstrate leadership and sacrifice. I mean genuine sacrifice in the interest of our people, in the interest of our country and our children's future. The scripture tells us that although we may fall, we can rise again. It is, however, imperative that government accepts publicly with a contrite heart that they have gone wrong and earnestly seek workable solutions from everybody without regards to partisanship or ethnicity. Our very lives as people are at stake. We must boldly, even if for the first time, discard the arrogance of power and don the cloak of humility and come together to confront our reality and face our truth, accept our faults, and act in unison. We must not throw up our hands in despair, no matter how uncomfortable we may feel about confronting the truth. We owe it a duty to our people to look at what brought us to this point. To the people of Ghana, I say the NDC and I fully understand and appreciate how serious today's situation is. This is because we are part of the Ghanaian community. We live together, we feel the suffering together. We know mothers and fathers are worried about the future of their children. Families with mortgages are deeply troubled and contemplating the future of their homes and their children's education. Just as families who must pay rents in due course are wondering where the next rent advance is going to come through. We know farmers and elders of our community are struggling to survive. We know businessmen and women are mostly running at a loss, with only a few barely able to make ends meet. But let me assure you, you are not alone, and you will never be alone. Together we can save Ghana and build the Ghana we want. Regardless of how bad the situation is right now, I still have hope that we can turn things around. Wholeheartedly, I believe in the resilience of our people and the lengths we can go to secure a prosperous future for our families. I've had the privilege to work with some of the most brilliant Ghanaians, and I've personally seen how dedicated they are to our country and its future. My brothers and sisters, throughout our history, Ghana's darkest days have always been followed by its finest hours. We always mobilize when all hope seems lost. We always come together when nobody gives us a chance. We always turn things around for the better, regardless of how grave the situation is. fighting spirit that we all share as Ghanaians will never leave us, despite the numerous attempts employed by many to break it. This is our land. This is our destiny. We're ready to move mountains to protect and build the Ghana that we want. Let us rise. Let us hold each other's hands. Let us put our shoulders and minds to the wheel. Let us protect and defend our democracy, and let us build the Ghana we want. As I conclude, let me state, and I agree with the President, and wish to add my voice to his call on our armed forces and security services to remain loyal to the state and the Constitution. The current economic circumstances, though dire, do not give excuse for any acts that are unconstitutional. Working together as one people and using the levers of our Ghanaian constitution, we can turn the situation around. I thank you for your kind attention, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
So you'll be hearing from the former President John Dramani Mahama on building the Ghana we want. He's been addressing the proud to his address, though. We heard the former Deputy Finance Minister KCL Atufos and also giving us some indication of where we are when it comes to the economy of the Republic of Ghana. In just a summary, the former president took us into the kind of crisis that we are facing currently and how serious it is. Some of his words are severe austerity is ahead of us. The suffering is real and intense. We are in a crisis, but it's not a time for arrogance and insults. He also admonished us to eat Ghanaian food, revisit Operation Feed Yourself, stop wastage and expenditure that's not in the interest of the country, and do the very things that would make us get back on our feet in a very short period. We should also plan for the future. So some of the things he's proposing we do, and he's also talking about what's happening with the finance minister and saying that we must not only replace the finance minister, the entire economic management team, chaired by Vice President Bawumia, ought to be replaced or reconstituted, rather. He said the decision to remove Ken Ofori-Atta as finance minister, as lead of our IMF team, and the position that would affect the very ongoing negotiation is untenable, and that should not stop us or the people of this republic from demanding that. He talked about debt restructuring too, and insisting that our debt must be both local and international debt restructured. The burden should not be borne by only local creditors. Any debt restructuring covering only local debts would further weaken the already frail system. That's what he's been saying too. He says there should be a we should put a stop to all non-concessional borrowing and stop the collateralization of funds like statutory in nature. We must unsecuritize them as part of the debt restructuring. So those are some of the proposals he's putting on the table. And of course, the very big one that's getting social media talking is where he says we should prioritize eating Ghanaian food. He mentioned the gobe part. For those of you who do not know, gobe is actually a meal made up of beans and also gari, sometimes with plantain. And if you are rich and you're thinking compounding a lot of what they call it, the protein, you may add eggs and other things to it. After the break, we'll get back to isolating one of the issues that's been very important to our economy. That is the current Cedi depreciation, the free fall of the Cedi, and discuss it with very independent people, what the alternatives are on the table, as the president is currently in a crunch meeting over this and other matters related to the economy. President Akufo-Addo has presided over a crunch cabinet meeting the entirety of today at the Peduasi Lodge in the East region. This is to deal with specifically and more importantly the Cedi depreciation and against other major currencies, and also the IMF bailouts on the table and soaring food prices, which is due inflation really, is also part of the conversation that's happening now. The meeting is supposed to end on Sunday, where the president will address the nation and tell us the measures he's taking to not only stem that free flow of the city, but also deal with the other issues that are of importance to us. This retreat will also find solutions to the raging economic crisis and measures to mitigate the effects on many Ghanaians. Ahead of the meeting, though, the president has been meeting with some identifying groups. I'm sure in the course of the week, you've heard him talk about groups like those in organized labor, Market to Women Association, the Forex Bureaus, Ghana Employers Association, the Private Enterprise Foundation, the AGI, and I'm sure you would know that in the studio today, a big man from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry is my guest. Also joining us on the Zoom is a professor. It's been some time since we spoke, but Professor Cedi will be joining us. Our sharp focus is on the Cedi depreciation. What are the alternatives today that the president can actually add to his list and Sunday announce so that it will stem it? One of the biggest things I'm told you heard from the President Mahama recent, forum was making sure we eat what we grow and bring it back. What example was very famous for, Operation Feed Yourself. Well, we learn it, but that's maybe in the long term. But in the short term, what should we be doing? And of course, joining me in studio for this all-important conversation is Mark Bedu Abuaji. He's CEO of that wonderful chamber. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, we've been sitting through a conversation prior to the commencement of this conversation. And I understand Professor Cedi is also joined us now. Prof, you're welcome to PM Express, the business edition.
Thank you very much, Raymond.
Yes, I was saying it's been a long time since we engaged, and I'm very excited to engage you now. Now, I wanted to start from this point. There's been many grouping, and they're thinking about what's really happening. Now, I'm just looking at what's been happening to the cedi compared to the dollar, actually. So, in December 2021, the rate was 6.45. In this month, on the average, we are dealing with some 13.90. It went up to 15. By the grace of God, there was an intervention which has brought it down to 13.90, which means something could be done about the situation. But what took us to 15? What did we do wrong? What are the factors that shot it up in a very terrible way that we're all shocked by this rate of depreciation, Prof?
Well, thank you, Raymond. Yes, I think that the factors are from both domestic and then the external factors. I mean, the domestic factors are very well known to us. The fact that we have very weak productive structures, our economic structures still remain weak, which means that we tend to overdepend on imports. Our import bills are just too high.
Well, I think I'm struggling to hear him there. There's a freeze on the Zoom, so if we're able to fix it, I'll get back to him. He started by talking about the factors, the production sectors of our economy. Of course, those of you in industry would understand it better.
Yeah, so I think it's true. We need to strengthen the productive sector. We cannot continue to import the way we are doing. When we do that, we are killing the economy. We have to be competitive. We should have competitive industries, competitive products, and be able to compete in the international market. So one of the things that we have to do now is to reduce imports and ensure that whatever we have to do to strengthen the productive sector is done.
But that's been always our plan, and we've always been importing.
Exactly.
So is it that we increased imports or something else extraordinarily affected the economy within this period to have pushed it from 6.5 to 13.9?
Yeah, so a number of factors contributed to the level that we have. So we need to look at the supply of the forex and the demand for it. Where do we get it from? The dollar.
Yeah.
And one is when we export, we get a lot of dollars into the economy. The other one is when we borrow from the Eurobond market to also show up the dollar that we have. Now, in terms of export, I think we've been doing well if you look at the numbers. Yeah. So if you look at the trade balance, it's been positive, surplus from 2017 up to this level. But the challenge is that, do we receive all the dollars into our economy? That is one question that we have to ask.
Don't we?
We don't. Because of the agreement, some of the agreement that we have signed with some companies, most especially the mining company. So you see a huge revenue coming from export, but the actual dollar that comes in is less. But the import is real. We spend the dollar to import. So the other things that we are importing, you have to pay for it. So we pay more in terms of the goods that we are importing. The second aspect of it is that when we go to the Eurobond market, which we have consistently been doing, you get some money to come and show up. From March 2020, we've not been able to go there to borrow. The reason is simple. We have borrowed to the extent that nobody wants to give us money. To the extent that all the credit rating agencies have all downgraded us. So now if you want to
March
go...
2020 is before COVID. Actually.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
But we were able to sustain ourselves around COVID because we didn't import a lot of goods into the economy around COVID because of the situation.
The shutdown.
The shutdown and all those things. So we were able to sustain ourselves. But 2021, imports started coming in, and then we now begin to feel the impact of the fact that we are not able to go there to borrow. But 2022 really exposed us when the downgrading came in. Even those individual investors that were giving us money, they were now seeing us as risky. So if I want to give you money, then it means I have to pay more for the interest on that particular product that I'm giving to you. So you either stay and not go and borrow, and your Cedi will depreciate, or you go and borrow at a very high interest rate. Now, our debt to GDP has already getting to a level where we cannot continue to borrow. So all these things put together brought us this far. So the recent one that we experienced was because people have also lost confidence in the Cedi. So one of the functions of any currency is to be able to be used as a store of value. Okay. The ones we experienced in the recent times, people have lost confidence. So why should I keep...
So you mean the recent massive jump? The recent
massive jump.
Okay.
Right? One of the contributing factors was that people were now converting the Cedi into the dollar. So they were ready to cut down their losses by buying the dollar. And also the portfolio reversals. Our foreign investors have also realized that we have become more riskier. And also, as Prof said, the external factors also are coming in because interest rates in America is going up. Yeah. For a rational investor, I would prefer a secured investment that will give me relatively higher rate than a risky investment that will, in the end, we have inflation even eating all the benefit that you get. So there were reversal of some of the investments. So I will take my money, and to cut down my loss, I will buy the Cedi at whatever rate, and then take it and go invest in the US. So the demand for the dollar went up significantly. Now the demand for dollar is about 4 times the supply that we have currently. So to be able to bridge that gap require a very drastic measure.
So previously, who was supplying that they are failing or refusing to supply at the same rate? POG?
The dollar?
Yes.
Yes, because we had the money, because we were able to borrow, and because other individual investors were coming. Now, those who have had matured investment, the foreign investors, they are not rolling over. They are sending their monies back. So you don't have the dollar, but people are also demanding the dollar to be able to
even with all the assurances the government has been giving them and the engagements that we're having so far, and with the pending IMF program on our tables.
No, the IMF money is not in yet.
Yeah, but at least does not send a signal to them that we will stabilize the system anytime soon and that we are clear in our minds how to deal with the problem.
They want to look at what is on the table now and how you are dealing with the situation. Do we have confidence in the economy? And that is a big no. The money that we had from the Afrexim Bank, that money, for me, I don't know how long it lasted. And then we're also sure of the syndicated loan. I'm told that the money has, and that is one of the reasons why the confidence is coming back. That at least we have some supply in the economy. But how long will that supply last? And given the demand, will we be able to sustain the supply of this currency that we are looking at?
The school of thought that we might probably have allowed depreciation so that it actually would, if we get money from the IMF and other dollar sources, we'll be able to use it to clear some of our debt. So is it possible that we deliberately allow depreciation as a way of doing debt restructuring?
No, I don't think so, because the effect of the depreciation is so huge. All the things that are moving around now is because of the depreciation. Okay. The fact that inflation is at this level is because of the deflation. The fact that we have fuel prices at that level is because of the depreciation. Because the international market, the crude oil is going down, but the fact that we import with the dollar and then the Cedi is depreciating is because of that. So you don't make that policy. If you are not careful, by the time you stabilize. You would have killed the economy, collapsed the economy, and killed all businesses. Now, businesses want to import raw materials. They don't have the dollar. So what they will do is that they will produce suboptimal, or they will produce at a rate that is not capacity, up to the capacity. So you don't do that. These are speculations that people.
Okay, actually, but you've heard it, right?
Yeah, I've heard it, but I don't think it will be a good policy for us, because our economy is open economy, and so you may benefit from depreciation, but not the level we are doing it. The reason being that when the Cedi depreciates, your local product becomes cheaper on the international market. So people are supposed to import more from you to get more dollar.
Yeah.
But what product are you exporting? It comes back
That's an interesting point.
Yes, it comes back to the productive sector.
But
So
some time ago, we identified 300 products for one district, one factory across the country. The hope was that we were going to substitute the ones that were doing major, what they call it, imports on, in a way that would actually get us more money into the system, because some of these ones will be exported anyway.
It's a brilliant idea, but go and see how many of these one district, one factory companies are exporting.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, I mean, let me bring in Prof, because there's a question I'll come back to you on. Now, we will separate the solutions that have been working and the ones that are not working. Prof, you are on the point of outlining what has brought us to this point, and we'll be having that conversation. If you get weighing on the very issues that have been raised about the lack of trust and confidence in the system being compounded by investors taking out part of their money, and all of the issues that went against us and brought our depreciation to the levels that we have it, very quickly, so that we can move on to which solution works and which one is not in the right end. Yeah, Pastor,
well, I mean, the solutions. Hello?
Yes, I mean,
the solutions that work, I mean, some of it can be said to be short to medium term, and some we can also say long-term solutions. But of course, there are no easy fixes yet. It's not easy to reverse the situation almost immediately. I think the first solution for me will be to give confidence to the market. Information flow is key, because the market thrive on information, okay? Speculation is key. I mean, once people are uncertain about what is going to happen to the currency in the future, people are uncertain about government policies to turn the corner, obviously there's going to be some kind of speculative attack. So the market will always, in this time, will require to have, some kind of reassurances, from government, from monetary authorities, to assure them that, yes, we are in this mess, but we are doing or putting together measures to stem the situation. Now, if that information flow is consistent and it is true, obviously it is going to have some immediate impact, because there's something we call the announcement effect. I mean, you can clearly see that recently when there's positive announcement about some inflows, we've seen some relative stability. I think the constancy in information flow remains key. We also have to look at, we're talking about overdependency on import. I think this is the time that all Ghanaians have to realize that we need to shift away from imported products. Immediately, we have to begin to look within. Our taste and preferences should be in favor of made in Ghana goods. If we do that, then the import bills or the demand on the dollar will significantly reduce, and that could also bring about some conservation of the currency of the dollar. In the medium to long term, in my view, is for us to have a very aggressive, competitive export product, and really factors that promote import substitution industrialization. It is key, because this will ensure long-term stability of the currency. You know, one of the things that we keep going back and forth with this currency is largely due to the fact that our productive base is weak. Okay, we don't produce more. You said, I mean, rice production or rice import and even poultry import is about $500 million, poultry alone. Rice is in the neighborhood of about $1.2 billion or so. So if we are serious about really ensuring stability of our currency, then we have to give enough attention to the productive sectors of the economy. And that should not only be coming from government.
Okay.
I think the private sector and then the banks themselves all have a role to play, because over the period, the banks have looked for cheaper funds, cheaper profits sources, over exposing themselves to government financing, because they said that is a safe haven. Financing, putting money in trade financing, that tends to fuel our import and all of that. I think the time has come that the banks will change their this kind of trading pattern and begin to finance domestic production, especially agricultural related agribusiness, because really that is where we can really turn the corner. If we can really support, for example, poultry production in a way that we can reduce significantly poultry import by 50% in the next 2 years, I could tell you that we can really reduce or bring some stability to our currency. And we can have a consortium of banks coming in to do this. We have always tagged the agricultural sector as highly risk sector, and so we don't want to put money in there. But these things are hurting us, and it will go round and come back to hurt the banks themselves. So I think that we have to look at ways of de-risking that sector and put a lot of emphasis, a lot of investment into the agribusiness. If we are able to do that, as once Kofi Annan said, if the farmers are happy, the whole Africans will be happy. And for that matter, Ghana will be happy. If we are able to produce more of our agricultural produce, we will definitely conserve foreign currency. We would definitely ensure food security. We would definitely be able to create more employment for our people. And so the benefit is enormous. So for us, this should be a deeper soul searching for government, the private sector, for banks, and for all of us to begin to now focus more on the levers, the productive levers of this economy, in order that we do not over-depend on import, and also our own taste and preferences. We have to begin to like the things that we do. So talking about that, there's one thing that I also want to say.
I'll come to that, Prof. Forgive me. I need to chip in this because I know you have actually looked at the bigger picture, but some action has taken place within the last few hours or last few days, which is showing results. What exactly, and because, monetary policy is really the job of the central bank. What exactly has the central bank done right or wrong, which contributed to the current state we find ourselves? What should the central bank be doing differently to make sure that this situation of exchange rate crisis is abated soon? I'm talking about the immediate measures required right now.
Yes, I think for me, the immediate measures, of course, the most easy or lower hanging fruit would have been for the central bank to immediately supply more currency, intervene in the market with enough currency to meet the rising demand. That definitely will stop it. And so I believe that with the incoming of the 1.3 or $1.13 billion from the cocoa syndicate loan, definitely that will support or that will help. But even beyond that, I think quick and decisive and well-coordinated, communication will play a key role, and action in terms of forex regulation. And as you said, the Cedi has attained that relative stability largely also because of what the central bank moved in recent times, talking to the banks and then also having meetings with the Forex Bureau. The market like reassurance. The market like positive information. So once the market realized that, yes, the central bank is ready to move to, have much more stringent Forex regulations and also ensure that there's sanity within the banking space in terms of dollar sellout and all of that, the market then begin to internalize that and they begin to anchor their expectations about what the currency will be in the future. So there was a slowdown in demand because the expectation is that with this inflow and with the central bank beginning to bite, definitely there's going to be some appreciation in the currency. So people then immediately begin to offload the hoarding of this currency. And that really is making the trick. So
would it be appropriate then to ask,
the
Prof?
central bank to sustain.
Forgive me, but I wanted to know if it will be appropriate then to ask, so if this was going to work as in an immediate measure, why didn't we do it earlier?
Well, I think the bank was doing some, if you recall, a month or so ago, the bank issued a stern warning to the black market players, and in fact went after a couple of them. I think that at a point, because of the IMF talks and the entire government machinery or the monetary authorities and fiscal authorities going to the states and all of that to engage in this negotiation, it left some kind of a vacuum, in terms of communication that perhaps might have contributed to that. But by and large, I think that the bank has been quite decisive in terms of what the forest regulations and all of that.
And recently, today, the story is that they revoked the license of 2 forest bureaus for breaching forex laws of the country.
Absolutely, I think that's the way. That's the way to go. And for me, I also want to add that the creeping dollarization in the Ghanaian economy today has to come to an end, because that is also fueling the currency demand. In a situation where some schools are charging their fees in dollars, hotels charging their hotel prices in dollars, where estates, real estates are quoting in dollars, it means that people who make payments, who demand this item, will definitely want to hold this currency in order that they can make payments in dollars. So all of these things are contributing to the pressure on the currency. I was just recently in Abuja and Lagos, and I realized that almost all the hotels that I went to are quoting in Naira. And even the real estate, when you ask how much is this, they will tell you in Naira. Unlike, that is a far cry from what is happening here. If you go to any real estate company or you move into any hotel and you ask for the price, they'll tell you, they'll quote it in dollars. And obviously, if I'm going to demand this in the near future, I will want to get the dollar, because otherwise I will have to pay more. So if we don't move in this and then reverse this, trend, it is also going to add to the pressures on the currency. So I think that, yes, the central bank is doing well, and I like what they have started. They have to roll out more stringent forex, regulations to ensure that dollarization is stopped, to ensure that the black market activities are curtailed to the barest minimum, and then also the banks, the banks themselves, many of them tend to condone and connive with some of these black market actors. I think that the bank has to begin to grip and have very stringent sanction for the banking sector. I mean, if you breach any of such rules, we have to sanction, or there should be sanctioning for that. And then we have to know the pipelines through which these dollars leave the country. We need to be able to map them out and make sure that whoever is demanding the dollar, we know specifically what the person is going to use the dollar for. If we allow the market to play it anyhow, obviously people are just going to demand and stash them under their bed. If somebody show up at the counter and want the dollar, $1 million, the person should be able to prove exactly what he needs that $1 million for. If you are not importing or taking the money outside, you shouldn't have access to that kind of amount. You should get the Ghana Cedi, because our price is in Ghana Cedis. Then why do you need a dollar? For what?
I will come back to you.
We need to tighten the forex regulations.
I need to bring it. Yes, Prof, give me a second. There's a question I finally want to ask you. Are we ever going to go back to the December 2021 exchange rate of 6.45? Is it realistic and feasible anytime soon? That question you would answer. But first, let me hear from you on what the central bank is doing, what's working, and what can be done immediately. Mark.
Well, I think that the central bank, they've played some significant role trying to...
Was it too late? Did they jump in too late?
No, some way, somehow, I think it was too late, but it was very rampant, the way they were doing it. But we also had a challenge.
Is this sustainable?
It's not sustainable. As Prof said, you need to supply the dollar. Does the central bank has it to supply into the market? And the answer at the moment is that we have the syndicated loan. That is the one we have immediately.
Okay.
After that, we have to wait for the IMF facility to come in. Otherwise, there's no way they are going to...
As a replacement for Eurobond?
Yeah, there's no way they will, because the Eurobond is not coming. So there's no way they are going to increase the supply of the dollar. So they are limited to the extent to which they can increase the supply of the dollar until this syndicated loan and that of the IMF facility also come in. But we also of the opinion that the use of the monetary policy in all this has been very excessive.
It's been excessive?
Excessive. To the extent that we have from the beginning of the year a 14.5...
Interest rates going up?
No, yes, a 14.5 monetary policy rate to now about 24.5. The effect is that interest rates will go up. And for businesses, that is where we get our money. A lot of the businesses in Ghana are not able to go to the capital market to borrow because they are SMEs and they may not qualify. So what they do is to go to the banks and other things. If you have interest rate from 35% to 40%, can you do that? Another effect is that instead of the banks giving money to the productive sector, of which we are all saying that we need to strengthen, the bank prefers to give money to government by buying treasury bills because it's risk-free. Until recently, where we are saying that there's going to be haircuts. If you give money to government will give it to you. So the money that is supposed to go to the productive sector, because of the high TB rate, is now going to the government.
I need to press you on this quickly. You met the president as a group, as business leaders. Are you convinced that the exchange rate situation is going to get better anytime soon?
Yes, it will get better. As you see, information is key. And for me, I think the meeting is long overdue. We called for this meeting as early as March.
Okay.
That just as the president rallied all of us when we were having the COVID, and the fact that he was able to talk to us regularly on the policy directions and what they are doing, it calmed everybody down. Now, they waited, even though it's better now than to wait further. I think that the discussion is having a fruitful impact on the dollar and then also on the economy, and is bringing the confidence back to the economy.
So what did he tell you that convinced you that things are going to change?
Well, I think now, previously, you could see that there was no proper, coherent policy direction on how they are going to resolve this issue. Now, with the IMF facility coming in, you see a bit of confidence. There's a policy. They know what is coming. So they are saying that we have getting to a level of a negotiation where we are too sure that the money will be coming. So that gives us, all of us, the confidence. Okay. And the fact that the president has taken it upon himself to meet all these associations. Because there were challenges, there were difficulties. So we were able to talk to him and we were able to tell him what we should do when it comes to handling some of these issues. So the private sector has a role to play. If you leave it like that, there is no way the private sector will do that. But encourage them. Let them know that we are facing this difficulty. Let them know that you have a role to play. If you don't need the dollar, don't go and buy the dollar and keep it.
I get you.
The dollar should be used for specific purposes. But if you leave it like that, the market will react to this false information, and then you see the Cedi depreciating.
Would it ever go back to 6.45?
It will never. If you are not careful, we are not going to achieve any of the macroeconomic targets we set for 2022. We may not achieve even one of them, looking at what is happening.
Prof, the projection here doesn't look very favorable. Will we ever get to the point where the Cedi will be exchanging somewhere around 6.5 like it did in December 2021?
Well, I honestly don't think so. Although we can have some appreciation in economic theory, there's something we call exchange rate overshooting. What is happening now is similar to that the exchange rate has overshot itself, largely due to speculation. And so once this is largely due to speculation, over time, we will see some, appreciation of the currency. If the market confidence, is boosted, but then we are not going to go back to the original or where it started from. The appreciation will come, we may go, may appreciate even up to 10 or somehow 9, but I don't think we can ever get to 7 or 8. I don't think so. But appreciation, we can have some level of appreciation at this time.
I'm afraid I have to go. I'm grateful to you, Professor Eric Osesbe. It's wonderful to speak to you always. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us in studio here. We sure should continue this conversation. Yeah. As the president is meeting us Sunday, he will do his speech. After that, we should be able to now hear the outline measures and review them properly, those of you who are really on the ground. Folks, that's where we end today's edition of the business edition of PM Express. Many thanks to you for watching too.